Garry Kasparov is a Russian chess grandmaster and a political activist, and he recently jabbed Bernie Sanders on Facebook. So here's what he said. I'm enjoying the irony of American Sanders supporters lecturing me, a former Soviet citizen, on the glories of socialism and what it really means. Socialism sounds great in speech soundbites and on Facebook, but please keep it there. In practice, it corrodes not only the economy, but the human spirit itself, and the ambition and achievement that made modern capitalism possible and brought billions of people out of poverty. Talking about socialism is a huge luxury, a luxury that was paid for by the successes of capitalism. Income inequality is a huge problem, absolutely. But the idea that the solution is more government, more regulation, more debt, and less risk is dangerously absurd. Okay. So he says he enjoys the irony of American Sanders supporters lecturing him on this issue. I enjoy the irony of basically a person who's a genius not knowing political definitions. So when you go on to pretend, Garry Kasparov, that American Sanders supporters are in favor of the Soviet Union, Soviet-style government, as you did. That's not me reading between the lines. That's not me assuming it's what you said. You just said it. You just said it. I'm enjoying the irony of American Sanders supporters lecturing me, a former Soviet citizen, on the glories of socialism and what it really means. Okay. Here's the grand total of Bernie Sanders supporters who are in favor of the Soviet Union. You see that? What's that say, big guy? Oh, that's right. 0. It says 0. You know what the Soviet Union is? It was communist. It wasn't socialism. And furthermore, Bernie isn't even in favor of socialism. Again, I know, basic political definitions, hard, really tough to get. Bernie is, as he describes himself, a democratic socialist. And actually, specifically, if you go by his positions in modern political science literature, he's not even a democratic socialist. He's a social democrat. So, and there is a slight difference there. No need to get into all the details here, but social democracy is what you see in Scandinavia. So when you say, hey, the Bernie supporters, I lived in the Soviet Union, I know about socialism. Okay, but they don't want the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union wasn't even socialist, it was communist. So what they want is, as he said 1,000 times, hey, Denmark, what's up, dog? Sweden, how you doing? This is the kind of system that he wants. Now, there's such a big difference. When you talk about the Soviet Union, you talk about central command of the economy across the board. That's not what you have in Denmark. That's not what you have in Sweden. You have a hybrid of socialism and capitalism, and some industries are public industries, government industries. Other industries are private industries. In the Soviet Union, it's all public. It's all the government. And not only are Bernie supporters against that, most rational people are against that. I'm against that. You want to know why? For something that I'm sure he would agree with me on. So, for example, when you look at the cars that came out of the Soviet Union, they were basically a laughingstock. They were a joke. They were pathetic. Why? There was no competition to come up with a better car at a lower price. So, since there's no competition, they just keep pumping out the same bullshit car, and they're clunky, and they don't work right, and there's no safety things that are part of it, and I'm telling you, go watch the old Top Gear shows on cars that came out of the Soviet Union, and you'll understand perfectly well why some industries need to be private industries and need to have competition and need to be in the free market. And I could give you a million examples of that. Do I want the government making video games? No! Stay out of that industry. Do I want the government making entertainment? No, stay out of that industry. Do I want them making mattresses? No, they're going to make a much less comfortable mattress than in the free market where there could be competition and they try to make a better product at a lower price. Yes, some industries should be capitalist. Absolutely. There aren't many Bernie supporters who disagree with that. You're just pretending that they disagree with that. But the issue comes down to this. We all know we're going to have some level of government, so then the question just becomes, where's the line? How big do you want your government to be? What functions do you want them to do? And what Bernie Sanders argues for, and what the rest of the modern world has agreed on, except we haven't fucking come to that conclusion yet because we're silly people lagging far behind, is, perhaps one thing that should be taken off the table is funding for healthcare. That's it. The single payer system. The government is the single payer. They are the insurer. All that means, Gary, is you have U.S. tax dollars funding that, funding everybody's healthcare, funding everybody's health insurance, so that instead of all of our tax dollars going to blow up random brown people overseas in unnecessary wars, we have it so that when you need a fucking kidney surgery, hey, look at that, you don't go bankrupt. Medical bills are the number one cause of bankruptcy in the U.S. Yes, Gary, in this specific area, we need a little sprinkle of socialism. That doesn't mean we need it in every area. It means in this specific area we do. When it comes to education, for fuck's sake, man, we have a student loan debt crisis. Why should anybody have to pay out of their pocket for education? We used to have that system for lower versions of education, for middle school, elementary school, and stuff like that. We realized, okay, that doesn't make sense. Let's actually fund through high school with tax dollars. That system works really well. So why not extend that to college? And as Bernie says, well, wait a second, getting a college degree decades ago is now equivalent to getting getting a high school degree decades ago is now equivalent to getting a college degree today. So it's just like a bare minimum to get you a shot on the job market. So why wouldn't our tax dollars fund that instead of funding maybe corporate welfare and pork barrel projects, which are useless? Okay, so look, Gary Kasparov, I want to be clear about something here. He's a dude who is significantly smarter than me. Immeasurably smarter than me. I wouldn't be surprised if this dude is smarter than me in 90% of areas, okay? I am gladly admitting that, 100%. But he just happened to stumble across my field of expertise and what I studied, okay? And he's just wrong on the basic definitions. The basic definitions. So you're saying Bernie supporters support the Socialist Union, the Soviet Union. That's a straw man. That's just not true. And you're also saying the Soviet Union is socialist. It's not. It was communist. There's a big difference. Communism is basically authoritarian leftism and central command of everything. Social democracy is libertarian leftism, not central command of everything, a hybrid of public and private and social freedoms across the board. That, by the way, that was one of the biggest problems with the Soviet Union is they're authoritarian and they want to control your life. Well, social democracy doesn't want to control your life like that. On social issues, it's libertarianism. That's why Bernie wants to do something like legalize marijuana, for example. So it's sad to see somebody who's so smart and such a genius, like smugly dismiss Sanders supporters. You know what it is? Look, I get it. And you see this a lot with people from Cuba, where they come here and they assume anything on the left wing of the spectrum is just a slippery slope to the inevitable shitty system, which I agree is really shitty, communism. But I would just argue that's not the case. You're making up that slippery slope. You're not going down a slippery slope. Bernie Sanders is crystal clear. Hey, here's what I want to do. I want universal healthcare, universal education. Am I going to ban the private sector? No, you made that up. So you got to be accurate and you got to be specific when discussing these issues. And you're not. You're just lumping in. Hey, he's a left-winger. Hey, Stalin and the Soviet Union was theoretically on the left wing. So yeah, they're roughly the same. They're not the same. They're nowhere near the same. Lest you say modern day Denmark or Sweden is equal to the Soviet Union, and you're certainly not silly enough to believe that. So stop strawmanning Bernie supporters. Stop pretending like they're so silly and out of bounds and they don't know anything. These are good people, working people who just want equal opportunity, not equality of outcome, which again is the implication of what you're saying, equal opportunity. To bash that makes less than no sense.